Turning now to our signature issue, homelessness. Economic prosperity that attracts big companies may seem like a good thing, right? That's the America we know. But the America you may not know is the fallout when cities lure businesses in but don't have the affordable housing in place to house the lower income workers. In tonight's Two Americas report, Chris Stewart shares how one community is trying to come up with answers for a problem that any city in America could face.
As the sun sets on this Salt Lake City park, the sign may read closed. But the only thing that's closed is the shelter opportunities.
Who else needed a candle?
For the dozens of people that temporarily call this park home.
Are you staying here now or are you back at your spot?
I'm still at my spot.
Okay.
Wendy Garvin leads Unsheltered Utah.
This year particularly, we have had a lot of families unsheltered, living in cars and even in tents with children.
Just about every night,
You're welcome.
Wendy travels from homeless camp to camp with a truck full of donated supplies.
These are hygiene bags. We've been 3 years now doing emergency resources, and we can't keep up.
Do you have another one?
I might.
Those supplies are becoming harder to come by as the number of those temporarily homeless in the state of Utah rises.
More and more often we're seeing your regular everyday working family not able to make rent. Most of the people that we know out here have jobs.
Jobs that so many cities across the country are offering, but no affordable housing to meet the demand. These are cities that once had low homeless numbers and are now seeing a sharp increase.
This should not be viewed as a short-term problem.
Steve Berg is with the National Alliance to End Homelessness. He says for people with the lowest incomes, finding housing has become more difficult.
Let's pull the bins out and we'll just dump.
To the point where it's become a major part of why there is so much homelessness right now, specifically in the Mountain West.
The community leaders, the mayors, the city council members, they're all very interested in getting more jobs in the community, which brings people into the community. But in many, many places, people spend a lot of time thinking about local economic development and bringing more jobs in, but they're just not spending the time thinking about where are people going to live.
Last year, the state of Utah was among the top in the nation in job expansion. Also in the top 10, Nevada, Idaho, Arizona, and Colorado, all of which have seen homelessness rise in their states.
I hope no one believes this is not solvable because we're talking about human beings.
Andrew Johnston is the director of homeless policy and outreach in Salt Lake City. He admits there is a housing crisis, both emergency shelters and permanent housing. Right now, the shelters are at capacity.
We're opening up emergency beds right now, a couple hundred of them, just for the cold weather times.
This'll do.
As for permanent, Andrew knows this is an uphill battle, with more than $20 million in funding committed to the effort.
So you're talking about housing that doesn't pencil for a developer because they're going to lose money on it, so nobody's going to build it.
Which means funding partially goes towards incentives for builders and nonprofits, ultimately completing more than 400 units by the end of winter. On this cold fall night, the temperature was in the 20s.
This is a sleeping bag.
Wendy is joined by an army of volunteers.
You can fold it up and then wrap this around and it's like a pillow.
To hand out homemade vests, hats, pillows, anything at all to offer some sort of comfort.
Yeah, do we want people?
Offering not just basic needs, but extending a sense of community and self-worth, while reminding us that these individuals that are experiencing unsheltered homelessness tonight could easily be one of us tomorrow.
We're only as good as the way we treat the least person in our population. We, as a society, are judged by the way that these people are being treated right now tonight. Is that right?
In Salt Lake City, I'm Chris Stewart reporting.
Now taking an in-depth look at Kern's homeless crisis, we can understand where we stand locally as a community. Back in February, the Bakersfield-Kern Regional Homeless Collaborative conducted what they call the Pit Count. The Pit Count is like a homeless census where volunteers count those who are in need living here in Kern. We took a look at the final report from the collaborative, which shows numbers are showing more people seeking out shelters. Now, according to the report, there are a total of 1,603 people both sleeping in shelters and that were living unsheltered on February 23rd. This is an increase of 1.5% from the last in-person pit count in 2020. However, the pit count is showing more of those experiencing homelessness have been able to seek shelter. The pit count resulted in 875 people, or 55%, who were sleeping in shelters, compared to 576, or 37%, from the last count. And the additional emergency shelter beds funded by the city of Bakersfield and the county of Kern have contributed to the shift.